Well, this is one of the important things that I think is coming up here, which is how do we define leadership? So when we typically think of leadership, we think of the person who's the mover and the shaker, right?
Okay.
The person who has the power to make things.
Isn't that what leadership is?
It is on one level, but we have to think, well, let's look at Jesus' leadership.
Well, that's what John Maxwell said, it's influence.
That's right, and that must be true.
So he must be right, because John Maxwell was,
It's written by a white male in a book by a publishing company, so that must be true. However, if we were to challenge that notion just a little bit, we would ask the question about, all right, what did Jesus do? He did live in an incarnate way in our midst, but I think it's really inefficient that he left at the age of 33. I mean, you got a lot more years left, Jesus. You know, it would be nice for you to kind of make a world tour and do wonderful crusades, and you know, that would have been really a lot of fun to follow Jesus around and do kind of rock concerts with Jesus.
Well, I really feel put down up here, you know. I mean, I've given up, I've sacrificed.
Understood.
And all that. You tell me it's not worth any of it. I just need to go on back to my middle class neighborhood and just mind my own business.
But well, it's not that Jesus left or ascended. He didn't leave because he says he left his body behind, right? So who is that body? It's not his physical body, certainly, but it is the body of Christ. And so at that moment, it isn't one individual that has taken the ministry to new heights and is the person that gets trotted out at all these conferences, but it is the body of Christ that is the leader. So at that moment, it's not the exceptional, triumphalistic superstar leader. It is the community that leads, and that's what we mean by maybe reconfiguring or rethinking what leadership is.
But how did we get here? What is it? How do we think about the city as an empty space that I need to go fill? How did we get to that mindset?
Yeah, there's a history there that I'll just kind of try to do as quickly as possible. When America was founded, a lot of the founding fathers saw America as, and John Winthrop, the governor of Massachusetts, used this phrase, America's going to be a city on a hill, city set on a hill, taken from the scriptures. And that's why there's a lot of early writings in the colonial period that sees America as like a new Zion. And that's where a lot of the dysfunction comes in to say, okay, the Western colonialists have the authority to see America as a blank slate. We're going to build a new Christian empire there. And so in order to do that, we don't worry about the native communities that are already here. It's a blank slate, so we can wipe them out. Or we don't worry about the African continent that's just, you know, labor, so let's just ship them over to the U.S. to use as chattel labor. So this mindset of American exceptionalism that says America is a city set on a hill, our cities are beautiful and perfect, and it's going to be this new Christian Zion, Jerusalem, etc.
Right. Yeah.
What happens, though, is that narrative shifts in the 19th and 20th century because you have cities that begin to change. And you get African Americans moving from the South because of the Great Migration into the northern cities like Chicago and Detroit. You get Jewish immigrants from Europe, Orthodox immigrants, Catholic immigrants coming in from Europe. They start coming into the cities, and then the narrative of the city begins to change. The city is no longer Jerusalem. The city is now portrayed as Babylon. It is the center of all that is evil in the world, which allows white churches to leave. It's the white flight. Why? Because cities are no longer safe. We have to protect our children. So let's leave the cities and move out to the suburbs, and let's build big churches out in the suburbs.
Hold up. That doesn't square with gentrification, though.
Well, that's the second part of the situation here, because the churches that move out into the suburbs, because they follow the population, these churches grow. They go from nobody to 2,000 members in 5 years. Why? Because the white population move from urban neighborhoods to suburban communities. So overnight, these suburbs spring up, churches spring up alongside, and go from 0 to 2,000, 3,000 members. And the pastors of those churches write wonderful books about how to grow your church in 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
And then, those principles that work so well in the suburbs, you grew your church from 0 to 2,000, you use those principles and you say, oh, let's go back to the poor, wicked, evil Babylonian city and bring these principles in and plant our churches in the city to save those poor black folk. And so that becomes gentrification. We not only gentrify the cities, we gentrify our churches.